So here we have a frequency table and it shows the marks students got on a test. So here we have all the ranges of marks and here how many students got within those range, got scores that fall within those range. So if you look at it, this is a class interval or what we call a range, so to speak. So this is what we call group data. And when we use group data, we have to estimate the mean, the median, and the mode because it can be a little bit difficult to find, right? So we have our frequency table and here we have some questions about it. Question number 1, calculate the estimated mean. To calculate the mean, we use this formula. The sum of our f of x divided by the sum of f. But when you look at the table, we only get our marks and our frequency. Well, we know that our frequency is f. I now need to calculate an estimate of the marks. So I need one value that can represent all the data that could ever possibly fall in this class interval. And to do so, we can create another column and we can call it the midpoint. So as the word midpoint says, it's the point that's in the middle of these two class limits. So to calculate the midpoint, what I would have to do is to add the two limits and divide it by 2. So here we go now. Let me draw from my calculator. So 10 plus 14 is equal to 24 and I'm dividing 24 by 2, so I get 12. So my midpoint for the first class interval is 12. Now this is why it's estimated, because we have to estimate a point of data that can represent all the data that could ever fall in this range. So this midpoint is just an estimate of how many of the marks that these students would get. So if it is that I need to find the midpoint for the second class interval, what do you think I would have to do? You're correct. It would be 15 plus 19. Then the answer I get, I divide it by 2. So let's do that on the calculator. 15 plus 19 is equal to 34 and I'm dividing 34 by 2. So I get 17. So the midpoint for the second class is 17. Do you think you can go ahead and fill out the rest? Alright, pause the video and see if you can fill out the rest. Alright, so to calculate the midpoint of the second or the third class rather, we have to find the number that's in between both of these. So to do that, I have to add those two numbers, 20 plus 24. Then I divide the answer by 2. So I'm going to get 22. For the next one, I'm going to follow the procedure same way. 25 plus 29, divide the answer by 2, 27. For the next one, same procedure. 30 plus 34, divide by 2, 32. So I just calculated all my midpoints. Now, and my midpoint is what I'm going to use as my x value, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to augment my drawing or my, what do you call this again? Cumulative frequency table. So by augmenting, I mean I'm going to put on extra columns on it. So I need to find my f of x, right? So I have the f and I have the x. I need to find f of x now. So when I talk about f of x, what do you think I'm going to do? Tell me now what you think you're going to do. If you say multiply, then you're correct. You're going to multiply each frequency by your midpoint now. And that is going to give us an estimate of the total for that range of marks. So let me show you now. I'm putting my f of x column right up here. So f of x. And this really means f times x, the frequency times the midpoint. So at this first row, my frequency is 3 and my midpoint is 12. So my f of x is going to be 3 times 12, and that should give me 36. But here my f is 4 and my frequency on my x is 17. So 4 times 17, my brain is so good, so I'm going to put it on my calculator, right? 4 times 17, 68. I would recommend using a calculator, you know, because sometimes I don't remember all of these things. So at the third one now, what is my f? 6. So my x is also going to be 22. So my f of x is going to be 6 times 22. Putting it in my calculator, 6 times 22. There we go. 132. Next, what is my f? So my next f is 5. 5 times, what's my x now? 27. So 5 times 27 will give me 135. Let me write it out to show you, so I'm showing all my work in. 135. There you go. And 2 times 32 will be my next f of x, which will give me 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 64. Now, we have completed our f of x column. Now remember, to find our mean, we need the sum of all our f of x's, and we're going to divide that by the sum of our f, which is our total frequency same way. So I need to add up all my f of x's. All my f of x's up here, I need to add them up. So watch how it goes now. So I'm going to have 36, and I'm adding to 36, 68. And I'm adding to 68, 132. And I'm adding again 135. I'm adding again 64. And that should give me 435. So my total f of x is 435. There we go. So let me show you now. So my total f of x, and I'm going to divide that by my total f. See it here? So I'm following my formula, So if I'm going to substitute, what comes at the top of the fraction is the sum of f of x. Here is the sum of f of x, so 435 will be at the top. What comes in the denominator? The sum of the f. See it here? F total 20. So when I do the math now, I'm supposed to get the estimated mean. So here's my calculator. Don't know if you can see it. There we go. So 435, and I'm going to divide it now by 20. 435 divided by 20 will give me 21.75. So my estimated mean is 21.75. Now we're looking at our second question to calculate the mode. So remember now, the mode is the midpoint with the highest frequency. Let me see if I can write out something for you. Midpoint with max frequency. So a lot of students make this mistake, right? So they look through it and say, well, it means the highest frequency, alright? So 3 are the little one, 2 little 2, 4 little 2, 5 little 2, 6 are the biggest. So 6 must be the medium, 6 must be the mode. Wrong. 6 is the highest frequency, but the mode is the midpoint with the highest frequency. So when I look at the highest frequency, the midpoint that is matched to it So the highest frequency is here at the 6. And the midpoint that is matched to it is this 22. So the 22 is the mode. Let me shade it for you. So the mode is the 22. So let's go again. So you look for the highest frequency, not the total though, but the highest frequency. You pick it out, and it is the midpoint with the highest frequency, which is the 22 in this case, right? So we now are able to identify the mode. If they ask for the modal class, then you give them this, because this is the class interval. And when you check it out, the midpoint comes from the class interval. So if they ask you for the mode, give them the midpoint. If they ask you for the modal class, give them the class interval. Good. Proud of you. So I don't expect anybody to make that mistake again. So now the next question that you typically might get is to calculate the median. Now to calculate the median, we say that the median is in the middle of the data. So to do that, we use the formula n plus 1 divided by 2. And in this case, or in any case at all, your n really is the total frequency, which is this sum of f, which is this 20. So it's total frequency. 3 plus 4 plus 6 plus 5 plus 2 is going to give us that 20. So this is really n, or summation of f. Same thing. It's just different ways to represent the same thing. So if this will give us our median position. So this is actually not the median. Using this formula will give you the median position. So I'm going to say n plus 1 divided by 2 is the median position. So that tells me where the median lies. It lies in the middle. So now our n, or total frequency, was 20. We're going to add 1 to it, then divide the answer by 2. When I have 20 and I add 1 to it, I'm going to get 21, and I'm dividing 21 by 2. 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. So the median position is the 10.5th, or the, I don't know how to pronounce it, lies right between there. So the 10.5 is between the 10th number and the 11th number. But what we're going to use to find it? This is where the cumulative frequency column comes in. So I'm going to have to augment, or for using simpler terms, add another column and call that column cumulative frequency. I just go and drop CF, right? It's really easier for me to do that way. And then for the interest of time, I'm not going to be neat right now, but I need you to be neat when you're doing your exams. Great. So remember we said that our cumulative frequency was the previous cumulative frequency plus the current frequency, right? So at this point, our previous cumulative frequency would have been 0, because there's no row in front on top of it. But then our current frequency would have been 3. So 0 plus 3 is going to give me 3. At the second row of data now, I need my previous cumulative frequency, which is 3, and I'm going to add to that my current frequency, which is 4. So 3 plus 4 will give me 7. You think you can manage this one? What do you think the answer is going to be? Okay, let's prove it. It's going to be 7 plus 6, and that will give us 13. If you got the 13, big up yourself. Now this one, you try this one. Alright, it's going to be 13 plus 5. And I hope you got that 18. Alright, and the last one, you do it again. Good. Should get 18 plus the 2, which is 20. See that? And notice that your final cumulative frequency value is the exact same as your total frequency. If you get it bigger than that or smaller than that, you know you make a problem. you make a mistake, and that's gonna be a problem for you. So now we need to look for where the 10.5th number would fall. So I'm going to look for 10.5, where that 10.5 would fall in my cumulative frequency column. So I'm looking for 10.5. So I'm just going to write it up there to keep me, because the cumulative frequency column really tells us the position. That's all it tells us, the position. And remember, our median is the middle position. And our middle position when we calculated it was the 10.5th position. So I need to look for where 10.5 would fall. So 10.5 is bigger than 3, so it's not this. 10.5 is bigger than 7, so it's not this. But look, 10.5 is less than 13, but still bigger than 7, right? So my median position would fall right somewhere in here. So it's telling me that my median, when I find where it's matched to, would be my midpoint. See that? So that midpoint there of 22 is going to be my median. Let me find one color to put it in for you so that you can see. Alright. So I find where the 10.5 is. It's somewhere where in this 13 range. So 13 is not the median. Remember, it is the midpoint that have the median on it. So it's going to be this 22. And if they ask for the median class, well, you carry it right over and give them that 20 to 24. So remember, calculate your median position first with this n plus 1 divided by 2. Then you look for where it would fall in the cumulative frequency column. Look for which number it is greater than but less than. And then remember, you're using the midpoint. So our median is going to actually be our 22. Great. I'm so proud of you for reaching this far. Now, here's a recap. So when we're getting our frequency, we need to ensure that we read the table and we understand what's going on with it. That's our frequency table. Now, if they ask you to calculate the mean, it has to be an estimate. It must be an estimate. Reason being is because the data is grouped. So to calculate the estimated mean, we need to use some data that can capture all the values that could exist in this. And all the values that could exist in each of these classes, particularly this one, is 10, 11, 12, and 13. So I need to find, and 14 as well. So I need to find that one estimated value that can represent all the data that fall inside this range. And that is why I calculated a midpoint, right? So the midpoint is really 10, is calculated by 10 plus 14, which will give us 24. And if I divide 24 by 2, I'm going to get this 12. Same thing for here. 15 plus 19 divided by 2, 17, and so forth. So we need to calculate that estimated mark that we can use to calculate our sum of f of x. Now remember, following the formula, sum of f of x, which means we need the total of our frequency times our estimated midpoint. There we go. So we need to find that estimated midpoint, and we're multiplying it by our frequency. That is why we had 3 for the frequency f and 12 for our midpoint x. And 3 times 12 gives us that 36, and we do that for all the rest of them. Then when we're finished, we find the total. So we add up all of them. That is where we get this pink number from. So our total frequency times midpoint will be this 435. Then we're dividing that by our total F, which is the same thing as N, which is the same thing as your total frequency. So we look in our table, we look for frequency, and we add up all the frequencies, and when we do so, we will end up with 20. So I'm dividing this 435 by 20. When I put that in the calculator, I end up with the estimated mean of 21.75. Now remember the mode. It is not the highest frequency. It is the midpoint with the highest frequency or the maximum frequency. And sometimes it can have more than one mode. More than one mode. Maybe it have 2, maybe it have 3, sometimes it do even have none. Right? But it must have one little mode though. It must have one little mode. So it must be the midpoint with the highest frequency. So you have to look in the frequency column and see the biggest number. And don't pick out the biggest number. Pick it out, but you look at the midpoint that it has. So the highest number is 6 in our frequency, but the midpoint that is associated with is this 22. So if they ask you for the mode, give them the 22. If they ask you for the modal class, you give them the 20 to 24. Next question that they would ask us is to calculate the median. First, you have to know where the median is. The median is halfway between the total frequency. So we use this formula, total frequency, which is the N, plus 1 divided by 2. That will tell us where the median is. So our total frequency was 20. We added 1 to it and we're dividing it by 2. Just follow the formula. 20 plus 1, 21, and we're dividing it by 2. When I put that in the calculator, I ended up getting 10.5. So we have to look for 10.5 on the cumulative frequency. Right? Just put it for you. Cumulative frequency. You have to look for that 10.5 under the cumulative frequency column. So you go up to the cumulative frequency column and you look for where 10.5 would be. 10.5 is bigger than 3. It's bigger than 7, but it's less than 13. So the fact is, it must be less than 13. So the 10.5 falls somewhere inside this region.